And we're back for another UFC card. Du Plessis versus Strickland, UFC 312. Two-man booth with my guy, of course, Dan. Dan, how we doing today? Ready for this card? I think this is a great card, honestly, but I've seen people shit on this card, and I don't understand why. I think we've got some banger fights. They might not be the all household names that people know, but I think at the end of this card, people are going to be like, oh, this was actually a pretty lit card.
Yeah, I was definitely one of the people shitting on this card to start, but you're right. Like, despite, it lacks some name value, especially on the main card. It's like the top two fights, and then there's a bit of a drop off just in obviously name value, but like we got a lot of fights favored to end inside the distance, so should see a lot of violence today, which is ultimately what we're after, right?
A lot of young, new, very skilled fighters. I think when you go through the card and you see, first fight in the UFC, first fight in the UFC, maybe second fight in the UFC, you're going to see a lot of that today on this card. You're going to be like, but then when you see these guys, you're going to be like, oh shit, like some of these guys are pretty damn good. And, they're going to kick the card off with a few of those guys. And, you got Salkill, Cody Steele, who I think people are going to realize quick he's going to be a fun fighter to, have on cards and stuff like that. The Toria thickness fight. There's just a bunch of guys where I think people are going to realize quick, like, oh, all right, this might actually be a pretty fun card. You know what I mean? So I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see these guys. I watched a lot of these guys had contender series fights, so I watched their last contender series fight, and I came away with like, these are going to be fun fighters to roster in DFS. They're going to be fun fighters to bet for violence, and I think we're going to get a lot of violence, like you like to say, on this card. So I'm pretty pumped here. We got K. Alex Burner in there calling Eagles. I'm assuming he's talking to you.
Go Birds.
I figured you'd want to give a shout out to your Eagles there. Yes. But we got fights to talk about here. And if you want to watch the football stuff, we've had shows all throughout the week for football on this channel. You can go back, you can check them out, you can rewatch any one of them. There's like 3 of them. And then there's going to be another show tomorrow, I think 11 Eastern time, if you want the Super Bowl content for the Super Bowl tomorrow. That show will be 11 a.m. Eastern time, talking showdown, bets, whatever you guys want, kind of going into the, the final hours before the showdown slate. And we got everything up on the site ready to go for showdown cores, Big T's, full player pool, my 3 max cores, and a bunch of bets. We added a bet sheet. I saw Big T already posted like 10 friggin' bets on the bet sheet, just posting a bunch of props and stuff like that. So, we got plenty of content and should be a fun time. But let's get into the fights here, Dan. First off, we've got Salkill, 9,600 on DraftKings for Salkill. It's his first fight, obviously, here in the UFC against Jubilee. Last time we saw a Jubilee fight, it was one of the more wild fights I can remember, from just like how weird it was. Like he was winning and then he was getting barked at and then he was losing and then he got knocked out. Like it was just the weirdest fight ever. Dan, talk about it a little bit while I go let my dog out real quick.
Yeah. Jubilee, obviously not a great last time out for him. That part of the world is not exactly like a hotbed for MMA. They just don't really have high-level gyms or high-level training kind of in that area of the world. So Jubilee's he's a decent boxer. He throws out good volume, but he doesn't really have much power. The grappling, the wrestling, jiu-jitsu, like none of that is really there because they just don't. He just doesn't have access to the kind of training that like you would have in America or, Russia or Brazil or any of these places where we get, a lot of good fighters from. The guy he's fighting, Salkill, he's making his debut. This seems like a pretty good setup matchup for him. I believe, he's a local guy. We got a lot of unknowns here, but he's going to have a pretty massive reach advantage, about a 6-inch reach advantage. he sort of doesn't really stand out anywhere, but he's like pretty solid everywhere. And I guess my interest in him sort of more leans on who his opponent is, kind of more than him. I see K Fox Burr saying he's good. Like, he's okay.
I disagree with you. I think he's good. I think he stands out. I think he's got good combinations. He does a really good job of mixing to the body too. If you watch his fights, he gets some really good body shots off. His back kick is nasty. He does that switch kick. And he's really good at, especially hitting that liver in the midsection. He got the high kick. And then he's got the grappling in the last fight, grappling with cardio. And I think that's a big thing too, when you can, set up your wrestling and grappling with strikes. And I think he can do that. Sometimes in the fight, he would like shoot a sloppy shot without kind of setting it up, and you're like, well, that wasn't bad. It would get stuffed and stuff. But you could tell like he was just more like trying to put the pressure on and trying to show off that he can do a little bit of everything. And he held his power and his cardio through 3 rounds. So that was another impressive thing. Like, he had power. It looked like he carried all through 3 rounds, where it was a dogfight. Like, the dude he was fighting in the Contender Series was actually a really good fighter. He had good takedown defense. He had power. He was pressuring him up against the cage a ton in that fight. And Salko just wasn't phased. Like, he was going right back at him, even off his back foot. So in a fight where like he kind of struggled to like get the takedowns early, he didn't give up on himself. He kept at it. He started to get some takedowns late. He landed some really good shots. I think you're going to see he's a pretty good all-around guy, an all-around fighter. So I was impressed with his Contender Series, I guess a little bit more than you. I think he's going to be a great DFS play too, because I think he's got all the makings of someone that can put up a high score in DFS. He can do the relentless takedown after takedown. His control isn't amazing unless he gets to the back, but in the scenario that he does, it's better. But like, that's a good thing for DFS, because if the control's not good, but he has the cardio to keep going, he can get us 6, 7 takedowns in a fight. So I think he's a really good fighter for this card.
Yeah, his Contender Series fight, he took like what, 9 out of 9 takedowns out of 22 attempts. So
22 attempts. He was relentless.
Yeah, if you can even attempt 22 takedowns, your cardio has to be like pretty much there. And that's what he's going to try to do. He's going to try to get this down to the mat, and then he's either going to ground and pound you or he's going to submit you. And I don't think he's going to be up against much resistance when it comes to Jubilee. Like, already touched on it. Like, Jubilee's got pretty okay boxing. He's got decent volume, but not much of anything else. Cause like, he just, he hasn't left where he's from, which is not a hotbed of MMA talent. Cause they just don't have the gyms. They don't have the training there. So yeah, I think it's Salkeld. Obviously the sort of the sticking point with him is the price, 9,600. Like, you're most likely going to need like a pretty quick win. He can get there with wrestling volume for sure, but I think actually most of the bust risk with him kind of lies in like he gets Jubilee out of there in the first round, but not within the first minute. So like, he gets a takedown, he grounds and pounds him halfway through the round, and you're getting 90 to 100, which 9,600 on this slate, I don't know if that's quite going to be enough, because we have a ton of finishers on this card and the top range is extremely strong, but he's got the second best inside the distance odds on the entire card. It's going to be around 30%. I'm happy to come in at around like 30%. I think a lot of ownership is, and that might even be a little high for a projection, because I think a lot of the ownership is going to be concentrated on the mid-range, just because there's so many strong options and people are going to be paying down.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm a little higher on him. He's definitely my favorite 9K guy to get. I get what you're saying. Like, if it hits that in between where he only puts up like 100, even 105. Like he might not hit the optimal,
Yes.
but I just feel pretty strongly that he's got Jubilee close to everywhere, and he's got that dog in him. And we just saw Jubilee lose a fight that he was better than the guy, and kind of better like most areas, and he still lost at the end of the day. So
that was bizarre. That was bizarre.
Yeah, it was weird. It was definitely weird. So I'm going with Salkill. It sounds like you might be a little lower on him for DFS. What's he coming in at for ownership, Dan, and where are you at with him?
He's going to be like 30%, maybe a little lower. I'm going to try to come in around that. I haven't really gotten to run. I did one run and I was getting him around like 20, just because a lot of my exposure is kind of getting concentrated on Kong and Toria and Juet. I'll probably flatten that out a bit and get to more Scout Killed, but he's a little tougher to get to, but I'm gonna be getting there regardless. I like some dogs.
I agree with Matt here too. I think there's a lot of live dogs, and I think that puts him kind of more in play. I try and get over on him, Dan. I like, just the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, what if he gets a finish in the third round and somehow he lands with like 8 takedowns before he gets that finish? He's gonna put up a massive score in that scenario. So he's got the reach advantage too. Another thing, I just think everything's kind of favoring him. He's got a pretty decent reach advantage too. So, all right, I'm going with Salkill. It sounds like you're picking him too. You're just not as high on him as I am. So let's move to the next fight here. Another UFC newcomer. You'll see this, Jonathan Mokalif, 7,200 on DraftKings for him versus Kevin Juet. Juet coming off a loss in France to battle Pooh Bear, whatever you want to call him, where it's just another fight where Battle just kind of dogged him. He just kept moving forward. He kept voluming him up, and Juet was landing like early. He was landing some good shots, but just Battle was eating them, and he wasn't phased. Like, he just kept moving forward, and eventually just pieced him up. The significant strikes too were like crazy. Like, Battle had like 100 and something to his like 70, 60 or something like that. It was a pretty wild output by him. I don't think we see that in this fight, but I do like. I do think that this is another good, first timer that the UFC's putting out there. Mikhail's coming out a submission win in his Contender Series fight. I will say the dude he was fighting, I don't think he's anywhere close to the fighter that Juet is. Juet is much more. This is definitely a big step up in competition for someone like Mokalif, but I think he's a live dog. My pick in lean is going to be Juet, just because I do think this is a pretty high step up in competition. But from a DFS perspective, I kind of like the dog more at the price tag. I don't really love Juet at 9K. I think there's better 9K options with higher upside. And so from a DFS perspective, I'm fading Juet, and I'm going to have a little bit of Mokalif. What about you, Dan?
I love Juet here. Just to touch on Mokalif, like in his Contender Series fight, the guy he fought, I don't really rate him too well. And if you watch that fight, like, Mokalif found himself in a lot of like very compromising positions. To his credit, he was able to reverse them. He was able to eventually get a sub of his own, but I just didn't love that he was getting put in those positions in the first place. On the feet, Juet is going to have a massive advantage. Mokalif striking, he just looks like a straight up liability on the feet to me, both defensively. I mean, offensively, he's really just using his striking to kind of set up, like he's trying to clinch you up and take you down to the mat so he can kind of work his submission grappling game. But Juet is a really solid. Juet's going to have a huge advantage on the feet. He doesn't use it too much offensively, but his wrestling and grappling is solid. And he hasn't exactly been facing top tier wrestlers or anything, but he's faced a couple takedown attempts and he hasn't given up a single one. So if Mokalif can't get this fight to the mat, he's in deep shit. even if he does get it to the mat, I think Juet is skilled enough to be able to survive, because I just don't really rate Mokalif all that highly. And we have a lot of up in the 9K range. You know, you've got Toria, you've got Salkild, who we just talked about. You've got fighters who have better finishing odds. So on this card, Juet, you know, he's 41% implied to finish inside the distance. On any other card at 9K, that would be something that we want to go after, and it's super solid. And you know, finishes are super variant. So there's tons of worlds out there where Juet is smashing in that 9K range, and you know, Salkild or Toria kind of bust at much higher prices. You're getting a pretty steep discount, you know, salary and ownership wise for Juet. So I like Juet in this bounce back spot. I like him to win inside the distance. I think he doesn't have one shot power, but he'll beat up your legs, and he throws tons of volume. Like you touched on, Mokalif isn't going to be able to put forth like Brian Battle's game plan. Like Brian Battle is a dog. He comes forward, he pressures you, he breaks you. Mokalif's not going to be able to do that.
That was insane too. And they were talking like the whole fight, Dan. I don't know if you remember, they were talking about like Battle's head was just like on the center line the whole time, and he was just like coming forward, and they're like, he's got to move his head, and then like Battle would just hit him with like fucking 10 punch combinations and stuff, and they're just like, oh well, Battle's getting off like a bunch of strikes or whatever. It was a very odd it was a crazy game plan too, because at first he was trying to take him down. You talked about how you know, Brian Battle, like his game plan to start, he thought he could take him down easily and finish him on the mat, and he couldn't. He really couldn't. And the other thing is, Juet has really good judo, so which, you know, comes into play there.
Base. He's like a judo guy. And then he went to
big judo guy.
Yeah. So Juet, he hasn't been the most he hasn't been the most like grappling or wrestling minded guy, but Mokalif might be forcing some more of those exchanges, which just kind of raises Juet's floor and his ceiling.
I just don't think Mokalif's going to put up the type of like pressure that Battle did. You know what I mean? Where it's forcing those massive volume engagements and stuff like that. Even Juet was throwing a shitload because he just had no choice. Battle was right in his face. Like you got to throw, you know what I mean? So like, I don't think Mokalif's going to do that.
I do like Juet to be the, I mean, obviously be the one moving forward and throwing volume. And I think he definitely has paths to get there, even if it's like a third round finish, just through volume, mix in a takedown here or there. I like Juet a lot. All
right, there we go. We're both betting Juet, right? You're betting Juet. I'm going to be on him too. It sounds like you're higher than him. You're higher than me on Juet in terms of DFS. What do you got him in ownership right now?
He's projecting to be 19%, just like around 20. So I'm going to be over that.
I can see why your model would like that. Yeah. You got the lower ownership. You still got pretty good inside the distance odds there for a 9K guy. So I see why you'd be on that.
He rates out like just behind Toria and for 300 cheaper for me.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Let's go to the next fight here. We got our boy Cody Steele, 9,100 for Steele against Rongo 7,100, coming off of loss. But you know, he's a guy with power. Cody Steele is a guy that is going to be in your face. He's going to stay in your face. He's got a chin too. If you just watch his Contender Series fight, well, actually the first Contender Series fight, the guy he was supposed to fight literally dropped out right before the fight. Yeah. Like he just like left or said, I'm not doing this, and just literally left right before the fight was about to start.
Yeah, the nerves got to him.
Yeah, which when I watched Cody Steele, I was like, yeah, that kind of made sense. That guy's an animal. He's a beast.
We were pissed because I remember we hit Steele's line early, like earlier than we usually hit these lines.
We had a sub prop at like plus 600 or something like that. It was something crazy though, right?
Yeah, it was like a pretty wide sub prop. We were down on the money. I had a bunch of money down on his just straight up money line too, and then the fight got canceled. So
same, yeah. The line like moved like crazy, and we got it like earlier in the day, and then he dropped out, so that kind of sucked. But if you look at Cody Steele's last few fights, you're going to see like KO, but the dude's got nasty grappling. And Rongju in his career, he's got a lot of fights in his career. You'll see that in his losses. I think he's got like 6 of them. 4 of them are by submission. So I could see where Cody Steele just says, I'm going to get this guy down on the mat and test him out. Because Rongju does have some power. Not that I think Cody Steele is going to be afraid of him, because I just watch Cody Steele say fuck it and just start throwing and literally he'll take one like to the chin and he'll be okay with it to give 1 or 2 back. And I could see that also. Like if Cody Steele can't get the takedowns, he just says like screw it, and they pretty much swing. I think this fight ends inside the distance. I think it's a good fight for DFS. I think both guys are playable, but I do feel like Cody Steele is the right side of this. I think he's got upside. I think he has them both feet and on the ground, but especially on the ground. And he could put up a massive score. His grappling is very, very good. We didn't get to see as much of it last fight, but I think we could see a lot in this fight. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I like Rongju as a dog. Like you said, Steele, he's his grappling, his jiu-jitsu, both very good. Like he's winning grappling contests against very high level grapplers. Where he might be lacking a bit is the striking. I do like that he moves forward, he pressures, he throws good volume. It's just he's not the most technical striker, and he does leave himself open to be hit. So if he wants to get into a firefight with Rongju, that's going to open the door for Rongju. Rongju has the best finishing odds down here in these like low 7K, 6,800. You know, you've got Rongju, Jenkins, Prado, all kind of hovering around, 25% implied probability to win inside the distance. So that's something I'm always going to target. He's 7,100. He's not going to be catching much ownership at all. He's projected to be owned at around 10, 11%. So not too hard to get over there. He rates out awesome in my stuff for obvious reasons, the super low ownership, the finishing odds. Steele, his ceiling is obviously sky high. Like he can find a finish. He is probably, if he's smart, he's going to have a grappling heavy approach, because that's where he's got the biggest advantage here. But we've seen fighters not exactly pursue their best path to victory before. So there's a good chance he just wants to go out there, and he's on a pay-per-view for his UFC debut. We see guys go out there and they just want to throw down and they want to show out for the crowd. We also see guys in their UFC debuts go out there and adrenaline dump and completely fucking gas and say, what happened to this guy? It's like the moment kind of gets to them. I don't think that's going to happen with Steele. Like I said, he's got a ton of experience, ton of high-level grappling matches.
He seems like a very confident guy.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have that problem at all. But there's always the possibility. He actually doesn't rate out very well for me, which was surprising at first. But when I sort of look at the strength of the range he's in, sort of like the projections he's catching around the industry, his ownership, his ITD number, which actually doesn't stand out in his range, even though he's like 52% implied. I'm going to artificially bump him. My stuff doesn't love him, but I am going to bump him because I'm not looking to sell him particularly hard. He's projecting to be around 30% owned. I might not get there just because there are guys that I like better, but again, like I'm not trying to sell him too hard. I'm going to at least be getting up in somewhere around the 20s probably. And I just want to answer this question from Dennis. He's asking if he can play Strickland and do PLESSIS. I'm assuming in the same lineup. We never stack fights. Never.
Yeah, never in GPPs. That's a cash game strategy only, in my opinion. And you'll see the good cash game players for MMA, which I do not play cash, so I don't want to sound like I am a good cash player by any means. I think Dan mostly plays GPPs too. But if you do stack these type of fights, that's a cash game strategy only. I don't think you should do it in tournaments ever. Very rarely does that. We see that ever hit. Not that it can't ever hit, but very rarely do we see that hit in GPP.
Well, you know what's funny is the last time a stack was optimal was a Strickland fight. Was back UFC 3.
It makes sense because he's a volume guy. It makes sense.
302 had Mokalif, Strickland, and Costa all in the optimal lineup. But
here's the thing: if you think that this fight is just a heavy favorite card, I could see it. Like if you just think all the favorites win and like no dogs win, if you think it's that type of card, I guess I could see it from that idea. I just don't think that card's this card. Like I think there's a lot of live dogs on this card, so that's why I would push against it a little bit.
Just from a process standpoint, that's not something I'm ever chasing. Like, can it happen? Sure, it happened once last year.
Literally once. So that's just telling you all you need to know about. Again, not to say it can't happen. If you're doing that long term, you're not winning in GPPs most likely. So
yeah.
All right. Good question though. Any other questions, you guys can always throw them in there. We'll try and hit them as we go. It sounds like to me like I'm probably a little higher on Steele than you, but it sounds like from a fight perspective, you think this fight could be optimal. You think that Rongo at least is a decent dog, somewhat live. What's his ownership, Dan?
Yeah, like you said, Rongo, he's got power. So he's got a puncher's chance. He's more experienced. Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff going in Rongo's favor. I don't think he wins. He also he's got a pretty decent round one number as well. 14% implied there. So I think 11% ownership for Rongo is way too low. He should be owned more, for sure.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Even though I really do like Steele in this fight, I do think that Rongo is a solid dog for DFS. Next fight, another fight where we're going to see some guys that we haven't seen in the UFC here. We've got Toria here, Alexandre Toria, 9,300 for Toria. Yes, this is Ilya's brother. Not that he is probably that level, but he does look pretty good just in general against Colby Thickness here. 6,900 for Thickness. I might be saying that last name wrong. Dan, you can correct me if I am saying that wrong, but
I think it's Thickness.
I think it is too. And I watched this dude fight. I watched as many fights as I could of him or find of him. He always is going to look like smaller in pretty much all of his fights. But he's a dog. Like I watched one fight where in the first round, he took a front kick to the chin, like beautiful front kick to the chin. He dropped down, like both of his knees, like caved, dropped down. And then he like grabbed an ankle and I was like, holy shit. And then he somehow got up. You could tell he was still wobbly. Took like 20 knees in a row to the stomach. Dropped again, grabbed another single after he dropped, right? Got back up, survived the first round, and then ended up winning a 29-28 decision because he just went to wrestling and grappling for 2 rounds straight after getting dropped twice in the first round. And I was like, holy shit, this guy is a dog, like absolute dog. Now, here's the thing. Toria might have him in both wrestling and striking. He might be better than him in both those areas. But I'll tell you right now, conditioning, toughness, thickness has all of that. And Toria has mainly fought 1 round. He hasn't fought that much either. He's been kind of inactive, a year, 1 fight, a year, another fight. What is it, like 7 fights, Dan? And some of them are back in like 2015. So he's not the most active guy. But I will say, I think Thickness is a good dog. I think he's a good guy if you want to do like the +3.5. He's got that type of like heart where if he can survive round 1, I think he could win a round. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he won a split. Again, he's got to survive round 1 because Topuria is definitely most lethal in round 1. The one fight he lost was the only fight that went 3 rounds too, Dan. So, or not full 3 rounds because I think he got finished, but it was in the 3rd round. So, yeah, this is an interesting fight. I think we're going to see a lot of wrestling and grappling exchanges because I think Thickness is going to have to wrestle and grapple.
Yeah, Topuria, that's also like his game though. He wants to get you down to the mat. And the fights that I watch, like since he's come back, like you touched on, he got knocked out in his last fight in 2015, took 6 years off, came back, and he's just been crushing cans since he came back. You know, his opponents since he came back, their combined record, I have it somewhere here. It's disgusting. 11.
Dude, it's so bad.
It's terrible.
It's so bad.
So he's been crushing cans, but to his credit, he's done what you would want to see from him when you're fighting cans. He's getting them out of there first half of the first round, but that also raises some questions. And you already touched on Thickness. You know, Thickness, I don't really rate anywhere. I don't think he's a particularly great fighter, but his 2 best qualities are he's got cardio and he's tough as shit. So if Topuria can't get out of there, we haven't seen him outside of a first round in 6 years. So who knows how his conditioning is going to hold up. It could fall off of a cliff. We've seen that plenty of times before. Again, UFC debut, adrenaline dump. These things happen. Maybe they freshly painted the locker room and motherfuckers are like huffing fumes before they come out, like what happened last week. So I'm going to be playing a shitload of Topuria. Don't get me wrong. He's got insane inside the distance odds. This line is probably wide, but I'm just going to lean into it. He's my favorite option up in the 9K. As far as Thickness goes, yeah, he's viable because Topuria is going to be really high owned. We don't know much. The tape on these guys was super limited. I wasn't able to find a whole lot. You're on YouTube watching like these hex fights where they've got the one camera angle that's sort of just like above the octagon.
Like above. Yeah, exactly.
It's really low level shit, man. So how much do we really know here? I'm going to lean into the market in my lineups where I'm playing Topuria, but I'm also going to lean into the unknown, and I'm going to be mixing in some Thickness.
So I think Topuria, he's going to just pressure right off the bat. He's going to try and put Thickness on his back foot, get him up against the cage. Because I think Thickness, his worst quality is probably his striking. And, he can be hit. He can be dropped. And I think Topuria is going to see that. And that's what I think he's going to hunt for a KO. And I think Thickness his game plan is going to be, I'm going to have to get in tight with this dude and just force the grappling exchanges and hope I can win the wrestling and grappling exchanges. And go from there and try and get the sting out of his punches, right, Dan? Like after round 1, maybe you get him tired, like after a round and a half, and the punches don't have as much power behind them, and then Thickness won't be as afraid to like move forward a little bit more. So I think that's how this fight goes. I think in round 1, you're going to see Topuria stalk this dude, try and get him on his back foot against the cage, see if he can find a shot, put him out of there. And, if he can survive that round, though, I think he's live. Like, I'm probably going to bet Thickness the more I look at it, just at the line and stuff like that. I'm probably going to put a bet, maybe the +3.5 line. I haven't decided yet. But, yeah, from a DFS side, I do think both guys are viable, too, just because Thickness has the takedown upside, definitely. And he's 6,900. So in any win, he could be optimal pretty much at that price tag. And, Topuria has the finishing upside. Like, I don't know if Thickness finishes Topuria unless it's like a late submission. Because I will say he does get on the back. Like, he'll find a way standing to like jump on your back. I've seen him do that like multiple times. So like, and when someone gets tired, could he do something like that? Maybe. So That's his real only path, though. I don't think he's knocking out Toria. So, yeah, it's a good fight for DFS. Which side are you going to have more of? The Toria side, I assume?
Toria, for sure. Toria is going to be probably my highest owned up in this range, but I'll also be using thickness. Thickness, he projects for 10%. I'm going to be over that, probably like 15-ish. And again, probably punting those off, but like, what do we really know here? What do we really know? Not a whole hell of a lot.
And I'll tell you, when you get out of that first round, things could change quickly. So it might look really bad early if you're on thickness. It might look really bad after that first round, but you never know after that. So, yeah, I think I'm around like 20% on. I think I'm double the field on thickness, and I think Toria, I'm probably, what's he, 30%, Dan? 35.
Yeah, he's projecting around. Wait, where is it? Yeah, he's projecting to be like 30%.
So I'm probably slightly under on him then, but
yeah, I'm going under on Steele so I can get over on Toria.
That makes sense. That range is, I really believe it on this card. I think getting the 9K range right is what's going to win you but if you can get the 2 9K guys that end up scoring above the others, like that's going to be huge on this card because there's a lot of really good 9K guys from a DFS side.
Toria, he's implied to win inside the distance 74% of the time. 9,300, not especially restrictive salary. I'm actually shocked. I'm going to be surprised I'm not going to be surprised if my projected ownership is correct. But I am surprised that the ownership is projecting to be kind of that low, but it's because people are just going to be hammering the mid range. So,
yeah,
I'm
surprised he's not 9,600. I'm surprised he's not. I'm surprised Sal Kill is higher than Toria, honestly. But
yeah, that's another one where I'm kind of like, really, is he going to come in at 31%? Because people do tend to shy away from these more expensive fighters. So we'll see. My ownership is usually pretty fucking dead on, though.
I think if anyone's going down, I think it's Sal Kill. Just because of what you said, it's 9,600. People want the mid-range more. If you want the mid-range more, you're going to take the 9K guys that are a little cheaper to fit that. Instead of having your last guy be 71, 7,300, your last guy 77, 79, whatever it is. Like, I think people are going to more lean that route. So I think Sal Kill, I think that kind of makes him a better play in general. I think, but we'll see. Let's go to the next fight. Another big underdog here. My dog, Brana Brazil coming in 6,800 on DraftKings. I think she's like plus 300 here against Wang, however you want to pronounce it. Coming off of a loss. She was 9,600 too. My girl Fernandez dropped her and subbed her. Oh, it was so good. That made me feel really good when we got that sub. But I'm back, Dan. I've picked against Wang in both of her first fights. I'm 1-1. I'm going right back to the well, going with my girl. I also picked my girl, Brana Brazil, last time out against Molly McCann. She was a massive dog, and she whooped that ass. Had a really good game plan, too. She's got a really good game plan. I think the camp she fights at, it's the Fighting Nerds camp, I'm pretty sure. And you can just tell they had a really good – they knew exactly what they wanted to do, and Brana Brazil – it was like a perfect, it was just played out to perfection, probably to what they wanted from her game plan.
Yeah, that fight against Molly McCann, that was her first fight, I believe, after moving gyms. So it's not something I'm fully going to ignore. I just don't really like Brazil's game. I personally, I'm not the biggest like Molly McCann guy either. Like, I don't think she's very good. So it's like, great, you got.
Well, yeah, oh yeah. Now that she's got her ass whooped in her hometown,
Brazil, yeah, that's not good,
bro. How about this? Brana Brazil in the first round. I watched Molly McCann touch earth after a body shot Like I watched her literally two-handed touch earth. Like, how many times do you see fighters like two-hand touch the mat from literally she got folded from one of those kicks.
A well-placed body shot will just fucking crumple you. You hit the liver.
No, I know, but I'm saying, how many times do you not see them drop? You see them get folded where like both hands touch the ground, but she stays up. Like normally they go down on a knee. You know what I'm saying? Like I watched that. I watched Molly, and she was a massive. Everyone liked Molly McCann. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, she might not be that good. It's like, or maybe Brazil might just be okay.
No, okay, wait. But I think we had a little bit of an inkling that Molly McCann was not very fucking good when she got armbarred by Stoliarenko, when she literally like rolled into the armbar. She did not have to get armbarred, and she kind of made that happen. And Stoliarenko, her only path to victory in any and every fight is to fucking armbar you. So like, sure,
it's literally the one thing she does.
Yeah. It's like one of the most rudimentary submissions that exists. So to get armbarred by someone that you know is going out to armbar you, that is a
But then she was a -3 something favorite, and everyone was still betting her, and she got her ass whooped. So
yeah,
I don't know. Take what you want. I take what you want from it. All I'm saying is, Brazil just beat someone who is, obviously a big favorite, and she was a big dog. Now she's again a big dog against a girl who just lost as a big favorite. And I don't know if Brazil has the same power like that Fernandez does, but I think she has some of the traits that she can implement. She might not have that one shot power, but I do think she's got a really nice, like leg kick and stuff like that. She does throw good straight punches. Her knees, she showed it, like her knees up the middle were nasty last time out against McCann, kind of knowing that McCann was going to be aggressive and come forward and stuff. She was feinting those knees up the middle, connected a bunch of times.
Fernandez,
she's decent.
See, what Fernandez has that Brazil lacks, though, is athleticism. Like, she may not be the best fighter, but Fernandez is, I think, a much better just raw athlete than Brazil is.
Yeah, maybe. I
also think in that fight, Wang Kong, that ended in the third round? No, second round.
Second. It was a club and sub in the second.
It was the end of the second round. Up until that point, Fernandez, to her credit, she hit her on the button. She fucking she stunned her. She got her down to the ground. She took the back. She choked her the fuck out. Great. That's awesome. I think Wang Kong was kind of like, she wasn't respecting her opponent in front of her. She thought, I'm a huge favorite. I'm going to coast here. And she was kicking the shit out of her until she got caught and subbed. So a lot of times what happens when a newer fighter, they've been winning. They start to just sort of like take their competition lightly. I think Wang Kong learned a lesson last time out, man. I think they kind of force it. When you lose, it forces you.
Here's the thing. When you lose like that, Dan, now you're going to start to second guess what actually got you there. And what got her there was that style. So if she's not implementing that style, I don't think she's going to be as good. So either way, I think she's going to either do one of two things.
I don't think it was a problem with her style. I think I hope she doesn't abandon her style. I just think that she was feeling herself a little bit too much. And I think I think that's something that you can absolutely you can watch the tape. You can go back to the drawing board and say, okay, I'm a -1200 favorite. I still need to respect the person in front of me. So I don't think she'll be making that. I hope she won't be making that same mistake.
All right, well, we'll find out. It sounds like you're on the Wang Kong side. Are you going to be high on her for DFS?
Yeah, she's projecting to come in at 16%. I think that's far too low. Again, she's 41% to finish inside the distance, which, similar to Juet, I know she's more expensive, but it's like, this is an ITD number that on another card you'd say, oh, I want to get a piece of that. But she's getting squeezed because there's so many strong options. I love her. I love getting different up at the top on a slate. Obviously we're always trying to get different. 16% for a huge favorite with great inside the distance round 1 odds. I'm definitely going to be getting over that 16%. Maybe I won't be buying super hard because I do still want to shove onto Toria. I want to get to Sal Killed and Steele and Juet at a good clip. So that'll keep me it'll probably prevent me from getting around the 30s or so, which is where I would usually be getting to on someone like Wang Kong. But, mid to high 20s, I think is definitely around where I'm going to land. And Brazil, I really have next to no interest in. That might be a mistake. She's projecting, where is she? She's projecting around like 12%. That projection feels high to me. I wouldn't be surprised to see her in the single digits. That's where I'm going to be. I'll probably be low single digits. I'm going to be a coward and not outright fade. But if I was going to fade anyone, it would probably be her. But I'm not doing that. I'll be playing some.
It's one thing that I've just always done is bet the underdogs in lower level women's MMA. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, you have to be up money doing this.
The line has moved to Brazil. I don't hate taking a woman's dog plus money, but the problem I have is she produces so little offense that I'm not even sure she hits the optimal in a win.
Well, it's because she sticks to a game plan. She's not really reckless. She's not really like volume up. Maybe she can get some takedowns, maybe in this spot. Maybe there's, a spot where she can take. She does have like, I saw some decent level changes from her in that last fight. Like, I do think she can mix it up a little bit. But yeah, I think she's going to try and as much as she can stay out of danger, Dan. So it's like more stick and move as opposed to like constant, pressure and stuff. I think Wang Kong's going to be doing more of the pressuring because she kind of always does, right? And I think Brazil's got to, be able to, use her footwork, move away from the big shot, stick and move, maybe try and change it up a little bit. I think you could see some level changes from her just to mix it up. You just don't want to be getting pressured by Wang Kong the entire 3 rounds, right? Because she's looking to knock you out.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is like it's a little too narrative-y. I get it, but Wang Kong is someone that the UFC wants to build up. They want her to win. She has
that Joker Batman standoff was the most corny ass shit I've ever seen.
Did she paint her face again? I didn't watch the weigh-ins. Did she?
Yeah, so she painted her face, and then Brazil came in with like Batman, Batgirl, like kind of like mask or whatever. I think I'm not 100%, but I think so. It was corny AF is what I'm gonna say about it. But
no, I agree with you.
And then she like handed her a rose too, like Wang Kong like handed her a rose, and I was like, what the hell?
Mind games, bro. Mind games. But I mean, they will during Wang Kong's walkout, they will probably mention that she has won a kickboxing match over Valentina Shevchenko no less than 3 or 4 times. This feels like a setup fight, and we've seen setup fights go really fucking wrong before. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but there's a lot going in Wang Kong's direction.
God, I'd pay a lot to see a GSP fight. Matt Hughes, I would pay a lot for something like that. That'd be a banger. He would whoop his ass though. All right, let's go to the next fight here on the card. We've got Tommy Nolan sitting 7,900 versus Borchev here. Borchev's coming off of a win against Jan Top, where it wasn't very impressive, to be honest with you. I think you liked Jan Top that fight, and he won. But I don't know. I feel like this fight's a very close. I think it's a Tom Nolan spot here. I think he finds a way to get it done. I'm going to bet him. The line's kind of flipping, or moving towards flipping to the Nolan side here. And I think I'm leaning with the line movement here, but I do think it's a close fight. I do think it stays primarily on the feet, and could see a finish here or a 3-round decision win. But I'm going Tommy Nolan here against Borchev. I think Borchev is kind of starting to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, you'll get the ambulance ready. Like someone's gonna fucking die here, man. It really comes down to Nolan. Nolan is super aggressive. You know, he goes out there, he's trying to take your head off, and he doesn't really care much for defense. We've seen him. He's super hyped coming into that UFC, and he's been pretty disappointing so far. He gets dropped by lower level competition. I just don't love what I've seen out of Borchev the last few times. You know, you get dropped by Chase Hooper, and as much as I love Chase Hooper, you know, you get dropped by Chase Hooper. That's not good. That's not good at all. So I think Borchev, he's getting older. I think his durability is probably fading, and he has his wrestling and grappling is fucking terrible. And again, older fighter, he is who he is at this point. I don't expect to see, you know, I don't expect to see improvement from him in either of those departments. He is what he is at this point. And Nolan, he hasn't shown it at all so far in the UFC, but he does have some wrestling. He does have some grappling. So I think either Nolan's going to come out super aggressive, try to knock him out, which he's fully capable of. He may get knocked out himself, but I think the smarter path for Nolan to take, which again, we can't always trust fighters to do the smart thing. But if he's smart, I think he'll attack Borchev where he's weakest, and that's in the wrestling and grappling. And if he does that, he's going to have a major, major advantage there.
One of the things that I will say about Borchev, it's not like he's getting like he might get dropped, but he's not getting like KO'd, right? Like he's not getting like just lights knocked out. Like he got dropped and then obviously got subbed by Chase Hooper, but you know, it's not like he's getting cold knocked out.
I agree. I'm a big Chase Hooper fan, and it's been awesome watching him watching him develop and improve. But the fact of the matter is he's elite on the ground, and his striking is a work in progress. So for someone like Borchev, who is an elite striker himself, to get caught and dropped in that way, it concerns me. No shade to Chase Hooper.
That's fair.
You know, the feet, the striking is not exactly his area of expertise. So, you know, you get dropped by a grappler, that's concerning to me. Having said all that, this is probably my favorite fight in the mid-range. I'm going to be heavy on both of these guys. Like I said in the write-up, like, you know, keep the hospital open, get the morgue on notice. Someone's going to fucking die here, dude. And again, a lot of it comes down to how aggressive Nolan is.
Yeah, I mean, if he comes in super aggressive, which he might, there definitely could be an early finish. So I could see a optimal score. It sounds like are you going to be like are you going to be super heavy on both sides, or are you leaning more towards one side than the other?
I'm going to be heavy on both sides.
Yeah,
it's coming in pretty high on Nolan is going to be around 30%.
Sure.
Borchev, upper 20s. So there's a lot of good options on this slate. This is one of my favorite fights. I'll probably be around the field, but that's going to be around 60, 65% of my lineups, which is nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not playing. I don't play 150. I normally play, like 25 teams. So I'm probably just going to be a little higher on Tommy Nolan. But if you're playing 150, you should definitely get both sides of this fight, probably.
Jalen Carter has no use for brakes. He doesn't need brakes. All gas, no brakes. Jalen Carter. We just flipped to NFL real quick here. Jalen Carter's sick. He's gonna be okay though, right? He'll find his way into the game, I'm sure. The thing that never really worried me, because the fact is like that little tidbit came from Fangio. So to my mind, if it was really that bad, why would Fangio come out and say anything about it? They're going to be fine, man. The Eagles have probably the best medical staff in all of the NFL.
Well, we finally hit. I didn't think we'd be talking about the Eagles medical staff on this show, but I guess we hit that point of the show where we got to touch on the Eagles medical staff. But Jalen Carter clears Borchev. Yeah, Jalen Carter. Yeah, by destruction, for sure. But I think he'll be fine. Let's keep it moving here. Someone said First King said Jack Jenkins, good dog here. Let's talk that fight here. Jack Jenkins against Gabriel Santos. Santos 8,900, Jenkins 7,300. I'm not really a huge fan of Jack Jenkins. He's got really nasty leg kicks. Can get taken down. Took him 3 rounds to finish Burns. That does not sit well with me at all. Should have happened quicker, in my opinion. Santos is more dangerous. I think he could win either on the. I think he's got more power in his hands, and he's much better on the ground and has a bigger advantage on the ground. You know, if Jack Jenkins can somehow keep this on the feet and get this to a decision, maybe he's got a chance. I just think the bigger moments are going to come from Santos. So, barring like just leg kick to shit Santos for 3 rounds, I think Santos wins. But I've been lower on Jack Jenkins. I don't really like him. I took took Chepe against him when I was told by multiple people that Jack Jenkins was going to whoop Chepe, and he got whooped. So, I'm on the Santos side. Dan, which side are you on for DFS? I don't feel like Jenkins either has a pretty big upside like for DFS, but talk about it.
Yeah. I'm also on the Santos side for the reasons you said. I think he's more dangerous. He's more likely to finish the fight. Dangerous on the feet, dangerous on the mat. The mat is where he's going to have the biggest advantage. Matt, to my mind, huge grappling and wrestling advantage. And Jenkins doesn't. He scored really well. I guess not that great for 9,600. He scored 104 last time out against Burns in the 3rd round, which is pretty cool. But it came with 2 knockdowns. Burns is just a quitter. He's one of the worst fighters I've ever seen. We saw him live, and just like the quit in that guy is fucking unrivaled. So I don't really take a whole lot away from finishing Herbert Burns. He probably should have lost to Jamal Emers. Got the split decision there. Did not agree with that. I was actually fucking pissed when that happened.
He lost. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Got dog walked by Chepe, who is a dog. I just we should actually stop using dog, because like Chepe is actually a dog. So
we should stop using it with other because he is like the epitome of just absolute dog, and we should not lower the standards when we use it. I feel like I do it too. I definitely lower the standards a little bit when we talk about it. But Chepe he's tough.
Chepe's booked to fight Ricardo Ramos coming up. That's gonna be a banger.
Yeah, it's gonna be a banger.
It's gonna be a fun fight.
He's gonna whoop the shit out of Ramos
next month. Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, back to this fight though. Yeah, I'm just not super excited about Jenkins. He's cheap. He's 7,300. The volume's not really there, and I think I don't love his volume to begin with, and I just think he's going to be put on the defensive for the majority of this fight. I think Santos is going to be the one moving forward. He's going to be shooting takedowns. Like Jenkins is just going to be stuck defending, and I think he is vulnerable. Best thing I can say for Jenkins is like he's got some pretty fucking powerful leg kicks, man. Like that's probably my favorite part of his game, just because I favor dangerous fighters, and I think Santos is the more dangerous fighter here. The other thing I don't like about Jenkins is he's projecting to come in around 20%. That's double, that's double Prado, Mokalif, Rongo, all of who have better inside the distance odds. Oh no, I'm sorry. Jenkins actually is comparable there, but I think Prado and Rongo, even Mokalif, might have a better chance of finding a finish here. Not big on Jenkins. I'm going to be coming in.
I would definitely lean Prado at the price tag. Like if we're looking at both these price tags, I would definitely lean him for more upside in DraftKings, or just as a dog for you know, a finish, an inside the distance type finish. So yeah, it sounds like we're both on the same side here. More Santos. What's Santos? Is he again like coming in at like 25-30?
Sorry, say that again.
Santos, is he again coming in like 25-30? Are all these 9K guys like coming in at the same exact ownership?
No, yeah, Santos is going to be around 25. He does have pretty weak inside the distance odds here, but I think he's got enough wrestling and grappling upside to where at 8,900 he could still contend for the optimal in a decision. But I think he's got a better chance to finish than these odds entail. I just don't rate Jenkins much at all.
Yeah, I don't rate him at all either. I just want to touch on my guy AJ, who's watching this soft product right now. Appreciate you watching. You can hit the like button as well, bitch, if you'd like, and enjoy the rest of the show. You know, tough scene for AJ right now as he walks back the shit talk in the chat. I'm fine if you want to shit talk, but don't walk it back after you, little bitch. Come in strong, or fucking just leave. One or the other.
Say it with your chest, man.
Yeah, say it with your. I mean, he tried, and then he walked it back real fast. All love for the people.
We appreciate the clicks and views, man.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move to the next fight here. Matthews and Prado here. I kind of already touched on Prado a little bit, but I like this dude. I think he's tough as hell. He's got good boxing. 3 rounds cardio. Even when he looks tired, he's going to move forward. He's going to keep moving. He's going to try and stay in your face. That Zellhuber fight where he lost, I kind of thought he won the first round, to be honest with you, but like Zellhuber had a distinct advantage, and that jab was just killing him in the second and third, just absolutely killing him. It looked like he couldn't see out of one eye. The ref went over to him before the third round and pretty much just said, like, if you don't show me something, I'm going to stop it. And then he went out and, you know, tried his best and, you know, got it to a decision here. I think he's good. You know, Jake Matthews is one of those fighters where I don't think he's necessarily amazing anywhere, but I think he's a good fighter, you know, almost everywhere. So, like, it's going to be a close fight. I think this fight's going to be closer than what people see. I think Prado has more of like the knockout power, in my opinion. Good combinations, you know, throw to the body. I think if Matthews wins this fight, it's probably a decision, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to finish Prado. So for DFS, I'm leaning more the Prado side, and probably going to be lower on Matthews just in general at the price tag. I think I rate out a few of those 9K guys and maybe a few guys just below him a little higher than Matthews. What's his inside the distance number, Dan? I'm assuming it's a little lower in that like upper tier range.
Yeah, it is. Hold on. He's like 20. He actually has a pretty similar inside the distance line to Santos, who we just talked about. It's plus 280, which isn't great. Not in this range, not on this card. I think the thing about Matthews is he's super inconsistent. You know, he doesn't really show that killer instinct that you want to see. He tends to fight down to his competition. He's been in the UFC a long time. And kind of another thing that dings Matthews for me is that he's sort of abandoned his wrestling and grappling recently and is pretty content to just kind of stay on the feet and strike, which helps Prado's outlook to me. We already mentioned, you know, he's got some of the better finishing odds down here in the low 7Ks. So Prado is fully on the table. I have problems with Prado, though. He's giving up a lot of size. Like, he's coming up to 170 from 155. So that's the biggest jump. That is like the biggest jump between weight classes, you know, 15 pounds. So to be determined how his kind of strength and conditioning is moving weight classes. Prado is like fully KO or bust to me. But I think it raises my interest in Matthews because, for one thing, Matthews is going to be low owned, and he should be low owned. You know, I think, what do I have him at? I have him at 18, about the same, or no, lower than Santos, even though he's got the same inside the distance odds. I think Matthews is live to get a finish here just because Prado is kind of aggressive to a fault. I think he can definitely get caught and be caught and put down. I like Matthews here. I like Prado. This fight is definitely going to go overlooked. I mean, there are a ton of, we keep saying it, there are a ton of really potent finishers on this card. So I'm not going to go overboard, but I definitely don't think it's a fight you want to ignore.
Yeah, I gotta up my tape study for AJ next time. I gotta up my tape study. I gotta stop regurgitating all the other shows that I don't watch. Literally none of them. I literally don't watch any DFS shows from any other channel for any sport ever because I don't give a shit what anyone else thinks. Even people that I think know the sport just don't give a shit. My takes are my own always, but I will do a better job, AJ. I'm gonna try and spend, maybe I'll do like a 24-hour tape study just for AJ one night. Next card. Maybe I'll just go through the night. Spend 24 hours, just like all the other cappers do, all the other fake cappers that bet $10 and, whatever else, don't actually bet on anything. Like, okay, that's what I'll do. All right. That's the Matthews fight. I could see why you would get higher on Matthews. He would definitely hit well in your model. The ownership's probably lower. Even though the inside distance number is not that great. I don't think he's putting Prado out, but we'll see. This is a fight, though, where I think someone's going to go out, and I don't think either guy's very good. Bolat here, 8,500 for Rodolfo Bolat against Jimmy Cruit. Jimmy Cruit, why are you still here? I guess maybe to give us one more like highlight knockout one way or the other. Someone's
getting, why are you still here? Not why are you still here? Why are you back? You retired.
That's what I'm saying. Why are you here? Like, why? I don't get it. But
fire has been reignited for Jimmy Cruit.
It's funny too because like I don't like Bolat at all. Like in his last fight, he looked terrible to me. But he did find the KO. He did put up a massive score. And I do think that this fight doesn't go the distance. I think one of these guys is finishing the other. Cruit might have the slight edge on the mat. Bolat, I feels like has a little more power. But like technically his skills to me just don't look that good. This is one of those fights I'm fine with being like, split on the ownership because I do think one of these guys can be in the optimal. And I do think it's almost a coin flip. I can see why Bolato's a favorite, but like, if Jimmy Cruit won inside the distance, I would not be stunned. So, I guess with all that said, I'm going to lean the Cruit side just as a dog. But this is one of those picks where some of the picks I have more confidence in. I'm definitely not as confident in this pick, but I will be high on it for DFS. I think both guys have upside. What about you?
Yeah, both guys definitely have upside here. I have the same concerns about Bolat. His last time out against Potiera. Man, that was ugly. That fight probably could have been stopped. Like he almost got finished by Potiera there, but we know Potiera, he hits hard, but he's got no fucking cardio and he's pretty terrible. So Bolat was able to pull out the comeback win there. I did not love what I saw though. Jimmy Cruit, obviously really rough run to end his career before his little surprise retirement. He took let's see how long. He took a couple years, like 2 years off, kind of regroup. He's back. He's young. And there was definitely a time where Jimmy Cruit was sort of a hot prospect that people were expecting a lot of good things from. He's going to be a popular dog this week, around 25%. I picked Cruit. I think he wins. This line has cratered. It opened with Bolat as a -300 favorite.
It's so weird. I think that just tells you though how little respect Bolat has. Like people definitely think he sucks.
Yeah, this is a solid mid-range fight though on both sides. Both of these guys have good power. Both of these guys have wrestling and grappling upside. Both of these guys are super live to find a finish. So, Bolat, Cruit, 29 and 25% respectively. The ownership is up there, but they still rate out decently for me. regardless.
Yeah,
So
I agree. And I get it. Cruit hasn't fought since 2020. Yeah, we're not saying that Jimmy Cruit is amazing by any means. We're just saying we think both guys suck and both guys can get dropped and both guys have upside on the mat. So from a DFS side, someone's going to score well is more what we're saying. So pick who you think is going to score well. If you're only making one lineup, you got to kind of make that decision. But this is a fight that I'm going to have both sides of because I don't know how you could be extremely confident either way. But I do think someone is going out in round one or under 1.5 rounds. Like I do think this fight finishes under 1.5. And I think, yeah, if you think it's the Bolat side, go heavier on the Bolat side. So, yeah, that's that fight. Also, Chris Jones in the chat, appreciate you, but we need you for tomorrow, like AP said. So let's settle down a little bit because we need you to destroy Dan's Eagles tomorrow, Chris Jones. So you got to be ready, all right? We need Chris Jones tomorrow, all right? We need you to be a wrecking ball, bro. Get it done for us. But I appreciate you.
Get stonewalled by the Eagles.
No, we're not talking about Chris Jones. He had our back in the chat. You got to be nice to Chris Jones. We appreciate Chris Jones. All right, 3 more fights to go. More violence, Dan. This is why I think this card's going to be great. We're literally talking about so many fights that I feel very confident are going to end inside the distance with some hospital big boy scores here. You got Justin Taffa, 7,800 for Taffa against Tashera here. Tashera, 8,400. Another guy making his UFC debut after a Contender Series fight where he fought a dude that sucked really bad. And the dude he fought tagged him a few times before he got just dropped and KO'd by Tashera. I don't think Tashera is amazing by any means. I think he's got a ton of power. All of his fights are pretty much first round finishes, right? And he's massive. He's like 6'7", 6'8", whatever he is. And he has, one punch knockout power. He also can get hit. And someone like Justin Taffa, who has fought much better competition, who's put the lights out of a bunch of guys in the first round, his defensive striking, I think, is going to play a part in this fight here. And I like Taffa, honestly. This is another fight. I think a good bet is round 1 finish, just by either guy. It's -120 on DraftKings right now on DK Sportsbook. Hashtag DK partner. But that's it, -120 right now. I think that's a good bet here if you don't want to bet either side. But I'm gonna also bet the Justin Taffa side. I like him at plus money. I think he can find the shot to put Tashera out. And I think these dudes swing. I think these dudes swing on each other. And I think this fight rounds, this fight again, under 1.5, whatever it is. I think this fight ends in like 2.5 minutes, Dan. So I'm going to take the dog money, but what about you? I know the line's I feel like it's moving towards Tashera.
Yeah, I'm on Tashera, man. Like you mentioned, he blocks punches with his face, which isn't great for long-term success, but it's great for DFS. I just think, man, this guy is fucking massive. He's 7 inches taller. Going to have a 9-inch reach advantage. Taffa's going to have to get on the inside if he wants to get on his chin, which is going to be really dangerous for him. But both of these guys, man, all gas, no brakes, not defensively sound. I think they're just going to meet in the middle and fucking swing on each other until someone goes down. And like, hopefully the ambulance is back from carting either Borchev or Nolan, because yeah, this one's ended in a fucking hospital visit.
What about Cruit or Bolat? What about Cruit? The ambulance could be taking Cruit too. The ambulance might have a lot of work on their hands for this card.
Yeah, the ambulance, once they load up Cruit or Bolat, they should just wait the extra like 10 to 15 minutes to take either Tashera or Taffa. Like, this is a super variant thing when you've just got 2 massive dudes meeting in the middle, fucking swinging on each other, not giving a shit about defending themselves. Like, someone's going down. So I'm going to be heavy on both sides of this, as heavy as I possibly can be, with, construction and all that in mind. Yeah, I don't see how you get away from this fight. I mean, we have seen heavyweight fights bust before, right? Like if they don't find a finish in the first round, we're gonna get some gassed, sloppy fucking shit where they're just leaning on each other. It could. I'm not trying to say
it would
that
be interesting to see Tashera in the second round.
Yeah,
because at least I've seen Taffa, and I've seen him pass the first round. Not that it's great, but I'd be interested to see what Tashera looks like in the second round. We'll see. His defensive striking, I think it's going to be easier than you think for Taffa to get on the inside, even though he is much bigger and longer. He just leaves opening. I think Taffa's gonna. This isn't junior Taffa. This is the good Taffa. This is the better Taffa. The better Taffa, right? But you know, I get it. It's gonna be one of those where whoever lands that shot to the chin, whoever lands that big shot and puts the dude's lights out, they're gonna probably swing on each other. So
yeah,
that's why I like the round one bet, though. That's why I think the round one bet is pretty good at -120. So
this isn't going to be like a technical striking clinic. This is just going to be two motherfuckers swinging on each other, which
no way either of these guys thinks this fight is going past like a round. There's zero shot.
When I first saw the card, I was like, how is this fight on the main card of a pay-per-view? And then I looked into it, and within the first 5 minutes, I was like, someone's going to get murdered.
Because think about it, though. Neither of these guys are going to wrestle. Right? Like the boring fights, the boring, big guy fights are mainly when one guy thinks he has a grappling upside and the other guy's like the power upside. So he's going to like wrestle him and grapple him or get him up against the cage and try and hold him there or do shit like that where everyone's like booing and stuff. And, like the Chaos Williams, it was literally Taffa's last fight, right? Like the Williams fight. So
even last week with Pavlovich, he turned into a wrestler.
Exactly.
What are we watching? This sucks.
Yeah, this sucks. Like the one or two times where they kind of traded and everyone started cheering. And then all of a sudden Pavlovich, which I don't blame him for doing it. Like it was easy for him to do. So it made sense.
I can't believe they cut Jairzinho. That's wild.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. He was definitely afraid of Sergey's power, though. He was definitely afraid of it.
He's a top 10 heavyweight, and they are not flush with heavyweight talent.
He whooped Shamil too.
Yeah, he's good. I don't know what the fuck you're doing.
I mean, they put him up against one of the best heavyweights, so he looks bad against them. So you cut. Yeah, I didn't get that.
He's gonna make $1 million in the PFL, dude. It's probably better off.
Yeah, that's weird. Like you said too, it's not like they have a ton of talent in that range. So
no, they don't. Like Maddie's saying, Dante Mays is a ranked heavyweight. Like, what are we doing here, man? What the fuck?
Jairzinho whoops Dante Mays. Like what? Like, come on.
Yeah, dog walks him.
All right. 2 more fights on the card. I did see someone ask this before. So both these fights are 5 rounds. Someone did ask about the next 2 fights, the last 2 fights, if they're both 5 rounds. They are both 5 rounds. You got Zhang Weili, 8K on DraftKings here versus Tatiana Suarez, 8,200 on DraftKings, 11-0 in her career. She hasn't fought in what, like a year and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
But the last time she fought, it was Jessica Andrade. She did find a sub in the second round. Zhang Weili, we've seen her fight recently. She's been awesome. Couple decisions, big scores in DFS, a lot of takedowns, a lot of control time. I don't know if we see that type of game plan against Tatiana Suarez. Maybe though, I don't know. Maybe their game plan is wrestle the wrestler. It could be. I don't think that's gonna be the game plan, but you never know. They could show it off a little bit, but 8K, 8,200 on DraftKings. This line flipped. It opened heavy on Weili, and I think it's now, what's Tatiana, like -130?
I think -140 now. She just keeps taking on money.
I'm assuming you're on the Tatiana side.
Yeah, ultimately that's what swayed me to Suarez. Like I love Zhang Weili. Like, she's one of my faves. And so it pains me to have to pick against her, but it's like, I'm not going to ignore movement like this. Dude, this fight, I like this fight better than the main event. I think this is going to be like a better real life fight, a better DFS fight. We usually just don't get Suarez or Weili at prices like this. Usually they're up in the high 9Ks. So you kind of have to go through these scenarios. And it's like Suarez, for instance, her like floor outcome is early second round finish, where like you're missing out on the first round finish points. You're only getting the second round finish points, which is like 70. And she gets like a quick sub. So she's not getting any of the round 2 time to sort of, accrue points through in-fight actions. And she's scoring, high 90s to 100, which if she's priced in the high 9Ks, that's a problem. And I do believe that she scored 99 and above in her last 2 times out and missed the optimal because she was so high priced. We don't have that problem here. She's 8,200. I think, and Weili at 8K similarly. To me, there's like little to no bust risk here. I'm always a huge proponent of shoving these 5-round fights. More often than not, they're optimal. Much more often than not, when we have cards with 2 5-round fights, both 5-round fights being optimal happens far more often than not. So, no change for me here. I'm shoving both of these fights with both hands. And I'm gonna be even on both of them. I'm probably gonna be pretty split 50-50. They just the ceilings on these two are fucking insane. And I don't expect to see wrestling domination like we have seen from Weili, because Suarez is a much, much better wrestler than anyone Zhang Weili has been fighting. Like, Zhang Weili has, for the most part, been dominantly wrestling strikers. She's been matched up against strikers. So Suarez is definitely going to be putting up a lot more resistance there. Weili has a huge advantage on the feet, though. If she can keep it standing, and I think the market is assuming that Weili isn't going to be able to stop Suarez's takedowns, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I mean, Weili she looks better and better every single time we see her. So if Weili is able to stuff Suarez's takedowns, she's going to fuck her up on the feet, I think.
I agree. And I also think too, like, the later this fight goes, the more that leans Zhang Gang, as the chat's saying, as Keg's saying, Weili. So like, I could see a world where maybe early Tatiana's having success, but like, I don't think she's just going to be able to do 5 rounds of just takedown control. I mean, Weili's got good submission defense. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Tatiana is amazing on the ground. Not saying she's not, but like, I do think that Weili is just at the top of her game right now. She's amazing, great athlete, much better on the feet, like you said, than Tatiana, like huge advantage. So really and truly, if she can, for 3 of these rounds, stop the takedowns, I think it's just an easy coast, decision if she can do that. Now that's the question. Like, and I think she can. Like, I'm going to take the Weili side. I think she's got massive. I think both girls could have massive scores on DraftKings too, just because of their prices. Like, so I'm shoving this fight. I'm just shoving it more on the Weili side. I'm pushing it in on Weili. But
like you said, if this fight hits rounds 4 and 5, then it flips to advantage Weili. Like, she has been in 5 rounds, like her last, I don't know, 4 or 5 fights have all been, no, maybe even further back, like 6, 7, 8. Dude, she's been in nothing but 5-round fights since 2019, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, I'm trusting her. If this gets past the 3rd round, I'm trusting her way more. So like, maybe too, it's a spot where you can get her as a slight dog, like live too, and you can just hit, or maybe she's a bigger dog live and you can hit it there. But one bet I did see that I did kind of like if you're someone who's kind of teetering on both sides, you might like Tatiana a little bit more, or you want to, or you liked Wei Li, but then the line movement happened and you're like, oh shit, like I should probably follow that. The Tatiana Suarez by submission, Wei Li by decision line, I think was like minus 110 or 120 or something like that on DraftKings right now. I don't think that's a terrible look if you wanted to get a taste of both sides, because I do think, you know, if it's by like Tatiana Suarez's best path is probably by submission. Wei Li, I think if this goes 5 rounds, I feel like Wei Li found a way to eke out a decision later in the fight. So
Suarez just moved to minus 145 like while we were talking as well.
Yeah, money's coming in.
She just continues to take on money. Yeah, Suarez is like a process pick for me as much as it pains me. I might not even bet it, dude, because I'm going to be rooting hard for Wei Li. Like, I love Zhang Wei Li. So that's my hope. But my head tells me Suarez, unfortunately.
That's fair. All right. That is Suarez, Wei Li. We both think it's a great fight for DFS. You know, safe side is what Dan's doing. Just jam both sides if you can. Yeah. Obviously, though, if you can't, you're only making a couple lineups, then, you know, I'm just jamming the one I think I'm leaning to win, and that's the Wei Li side for me. It seems like Dan is more Tatiana with the line movement and everything like that. But
yeah, so what I'm going to do here and what I like to do is when I don't have a particularly strong lean either way, I just look at the implied, like the implied probabilities from the money line. So you've got Suarez 56% to win, Wei Li 44% to win. I'm probably just going to set my exposure to the implied probabilities to win. Easy.
By submission for Wei Li is 16-1. I don't know if that happens, but that's a fun prop. I'm gonna root for you on that prop there, my friend, because I hope it happens. But that'd be wild if she subbed Tatiana. That'd be pretty impressive there. So that'll be one prop that that's one prop that like I normally like fun bets like that. I could just sprinkle that instead of betting like the money. I could just sprinkle something like that just to enjoy myself a little bit. A little 16-1 sub prop, but good luck. That's a heavy one right there. But I always like those. Yeah, I always like those fun ones. Let's get to the final fight on the card here. Dricus du Plessis, champ, versus Sean Strickland. Dricus sitting at a minus 218 favorite right now on DK Sportsbook. Dricus 8,600 on DraftKings. Strickland 7,600. Dan, rematch from this fight we saw, was it 2 fights ago for Strickland? He scored 71 in a loss. So, like, obviously, if you gave him the win, he's optimal in like every scenario, probably at 7,600, most likely. If he's scoring 100 plus, he's probably sitting optimal. And I do think with just like his volume of striking, if he wins, he's probably gonna be optimal. So this is another fight where I feel like you got to jam it one way or the other, or try and have, you know, a little bit of both sides and stuff, and just push in, because Dricus has got the takedown upside, and he's scored amazing in all of his wins pretty much. You know, 104 was the last win. That was like his lowest of his last 5 fights. 4 takedowns, 4+ minutes of control time. I think you see a heavy wrestling game plan from Dricus, much to Sean's dismay, probably, because I'm sure he won't want that. He's going to want it to be on the feet. You know, so we'll see what happens. But I lean the Dricus side. So honestly, the last fight, I honestly thought that Sean won the fight, but I wasn't like, you know, it wasn't something where I thought like robbery. I just, when I watched the fight, I was sitting there and I was like, Sean won this fight. Like, he's going to win. And then obviously he didn't win. And I was like, that was close. Cause I thought watching it, they were going to give him the fight. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think it's a close one again. I think it ends a decision again. And I think Dricus squeaks it out. I think his heavy wrestling game plan, I think he's going to win a decision. But what about you?
I just want to circle back real quick. Daniel says seeing Suarez at -135. She is -135 on DraftKings. She's -145 on Bet Online, which Bet Online to me is probably the sharpest book. Like you'll get the sharpest lines from there, the lines that are closest to the truth, because they don't limit people. So they're taking on as much money as they can get. So the lines there are going to be sharper. And if you want to bet Suarez, I would go bet her on, I would go bet her on FanDuel, because on FanDuel, she's sitting at -118 right now. So that number is way off. That's actually going to be my favorite bet now that I'm looking at it, unfortunately, for my Whaley fandom. But back to this fight. Yeah, I've got Duplessis. I've got him inside the distance. I think he's going to find the sub. He just has such a pronounced wrestling and grappling advantage. And like you said, I think that's basically what won him the fight last time. It was a combination of, Strickland, we all know what his style is. He's going to jab you and teep you. He doesn't really have much power. He's just going to pour on volume. He's going to try to tire you out. He's not going to be able to tire Duplessis out. Like we've seen Strickland break dudes like Magomedov. We've seen him break Imavov, like these dudes that don't have really good cardio. Ever since Dricus got like that nose surgery so he could breathe through his nose, there have been no cardio issues to speak of. He's been beasting on people.
Even when he looks tired, he still is like dangerous and moves
Dricus
forward.
is such a weird fighter to watch, man. Like there are times where he just he looks horrible. Like sometimes he'll look like a fucking deer on a frozen pond, and then he'll just like land a big shot and hop on your back and choke you the fuck out. And that's what I think is going to happen here. Like you mentioned, I think he's going to lean more into the wrestling and grappling than he did last time. And I think this win is going to look a lot more dominant for him.
Dricus plus 550 for submission.
Yeah, I like that.
Like that. Yeah.
I think it's going to be similar. I think it's going to be, play out. The end is going to play out similar to what he did to Izzy. I mean, Izzy was actually winning that fight.
That's the thing. I can see that too, where he's like losing until he wins, because he was losing that fight against Izzy. Like he was.
But that's what I like about Dricus, man. Is this is why, just in general, again from a process standpoint, you like to back the more dangerous fighter, because they can turn it around just like that. You could be losing a fight, and then next thing you know, bam, club and sub. So yeah, I'm going to be doing the same thing with this 5-rounder that I'm going to do with Suarez Whaley. I'm shoving it in with both hands, and I'm just going to go with the implied probabilities to win for my exposures. So right now we got Dricus sitting at around 67%, Sean in the mid 30s. So that's probably where I'm going to land. Both of these guys, super affordable, 5 rounds to work. On the Duplessis side, you have tons of grappling and wrestling upside. I think he finds the finish. On the Strickland side, we touched on it earlier in the show. He hit the optimal in, I believe that was his last 5-round fight against Costa. He hit the optimal in a loss just because he throws an insane amount of volume. So both of these guys, super viable, shoving it with both hands. But Dricus will be my highest owned fighter on the slate. I'm going to be around 60, high 60s, possibly even 70% on Dricus.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to be heavy on the Dricus side, but if you like Strickland, you should shove in DFS, because he's going to be optimal in a win. He's probably because he's probably going to win a decision. And so he's going to get 5 rounds of just volume, just straight volume. Probably, and in a win, there's probably less wrestling success for Dricus, I would assume. Yep. Right. So that means even more of a chance for him to just volume up. So yeah, pick your side here. It sounds like both of us are on the Dricus side, but we'll see. Fun card though. Those are all of the fights here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Oh, let's do our best bets before we get out of here. Me and Dan were 2-0 last week. I think Imavov came in for him, and MVP dog winners too, Dan. A little plus money for the hashtag no tape study crew over here at runpuresports.com, baby. We love that no tape study shit.
Dude, our best bets have been fucking printing, dude. I swear to God, I'm like 9-1 over.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it, bro. Don't jinx it.
Fuck that.
Yeah. All right. Let's give a winner, Dan, or favorite bet overall. It can be any bet, side, prop, whatever you want. Who you got?
I mentioned it just before. Suarez -118 on FanDuel. That number is way off. Everywhere else at minimum is like -135. Sharpest book that I follow is -145. So you're getting great value. I hate it personally, but it is what it is, man. I just do what the numbers tell me, honestly.
Yeah, my favorite bet is probably that round one winner inside the distance with Taffa and Tashera. Just, you don't even have to pick the side, just the fight to end in round one. You're a winner. -120 on DK Sportsbook. We're hashtag DK partner. I don't know if you can find a better line, but you can go check out Gambly if you want to see all the lines and stuff, see the best lines and stuff. I don't know if they have the MMA stuff up yet, but yeah, they're, if you want to check.
I think they might.
Yeah, they might. So, but that's everything there. There's the bets, all the picks for DFS. If you want more, the core plays, the cheat sheets, everything you'll need for your DFS lineups and bets, we got you at Run Pure Sports. Check us out. RPS15 is the promo code. Get you 15% off. Enjoy the fights tonight. Enjoy the Super Bowl tomorrow. Good luck to Eagles fans and Chiefs fans.
Oh, fuck the Chiefs.
And for that, we're going to get out of here. For Dan and myself, JSU, good luck in your contest today. We'll see you guys next week. We're out.